Well, folks, it's been 10,000 kilometers in the Tesla, and here's my review. I've actually only technically put on about 8,500 since I bought it as a demo with 1,500 kilometers, but the odometer is at 10,000 kilometers, and I have a lot of thoughts from all of my use throughout the winter. I took it on a road trip. I daily drove it in minus 40 Celsius, which is right around minus 40 Fahrenheit. I used it for all kinds of day-to-day stuff since I bought the car on December 21st of 2024. So I've had it for just barely 3 months. I've had 3 super minor issues, which I will get into, and the Tesla Service Center was very helpful with all of them. Otherwise, I've had an amazing time and saved quite a bit of money on this car in terms of fuel at least. As for insurance and other issues with that, it is a lot more expensive on insurance, and as of a few days ago, Saskatchewan just announced we're going to bump up the EV tax by $150 a year. So poof, the $150 a year is now suddenly gone thanks to that. So that sucks. Saskatchewan is actively working against EV adoption in that way. But overall, this video will be an excellent representation on what to expect on EV ownership, and more specifically Tesla ownership, if you live in a colder climate like I do here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in Canada. Before I even get into this, do I regret anything about buying this car? Absolutely not. I would do it again, hands down. YouTube has been a huge bonus for me, and it's become a really fun, awesome hobby. The car has been better than expected. There's a lot of pros to this car that I wasn't really sure of, such as it gets better in the cold. It's not worse, but it is actually better when it's freezing cold out. It is better if you have access to a garage, and way better if you have level 2 charging at home. I haven't been to a gas station in 3 months, other than to fill up my wife's car, of course. I'm still on the hook for that one, as we have a gas vehicle as our second car. I just plug it in at the end of every day. Takes about 4 seconds to do, and every morning I've got a full charge. And by full charge, I mean 70%. I'm being really kind to my battery, and I'm only charging it up to about 70% every day, since I don't need more than that. Nowadays, when it's been about minus 10 Celsius or warmer, I only end up using about 8 or 9% to drive to work and back, which is about 67 kilometers or 42 miles. So I get home with above 50% most days. Not to mention, I plug in my level 1 charger at work, so I actually end up getting home with about 65% a lot of the time now, since I will charge to above 70% while I'm at work and then just use that free juice to get home. So number 1 is daily savings. Every single day in my Honda Civic, I spent around $8 to $8.50 on fuel to drive 67 kilometers, averaging around 8 to 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers in that car. Winter, it gets worse. Summer, it's a little better, but overall, averaged around that, with gas prices hovering around $1.50 or so per liter here in Saskatoon. In the Tesla, in the winter, using around 20% per day, we'll say, that only costs about $2. And when I've been charging at work, it lowers my cost to under $1 a day. Working 4 or 5 days in the office with the occasional work from home day, I'm saving like $40 a week on gas alone. That's pretty much paying for my insurance every single month. Not just the saving on the insurance, but the overall insurance number is almost paid for in fuel savings alone just for work. Not to mention my personal driving and my personal use, which is also saving me money all the time. A downside though is the extra insurance cost. So I upgraded from a 2010 Honda Civic to this 2024 Tesla Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive, and I was paying about $1,000 a year for my Civic. I understand that's pretty cheap in Canadian dollars to have $1,000 a year for fully insured road insurance. This has bumped me up to $156 a month, which is right around that $1,850 a year. Just doing this all in my head, that's about an $800 increase right there. Now, of course, I'm saving that in fuel by a landslide, like I've already done 10,000 kilometers, but that is some extra upfront cost you have to consider. And like I've mentioned before, the $150 a year EV tax is actually doubling to $300 a year. So that $156 a month is going to go up a little bit because the EV tax gets built into that. So I'm going to be sitting right around $2,000 a year just to insure this guy. But now I better jump into gas prices to see what I'm actually saving. Like, what if I saved in 3 months and 10,000 kilometers? I have access to the entire kilowatt hours charged through the Sexy app. So Enhance Auto, they're the makers of the Sexy knob, the Sexy stocks, the Commander, and the Sexy buttons. Their app actually has access to a ton of data, including the overall entire kilowatt hours charged on this battery, including stuff that's not being driven, such as preconditioning when it's in park. So that number is actually going to be incredibly useful here to see how much energy has gone into this car, that this car has consumed, whether it's in park or in drive, and compare to the total cost of what my Civic would be for 10,000 equivalent kilometers and see what I'm saving. The left screenshot here is from the Sexy app, the right one is from the Tessie app, and we can see that they really well line up. So the total kilowatt hour AC charge, 2,081 kilowatt hours, versus energy added on the Tessie app, 2078, basically exactly correct. That's the amount that's been charged. And the DC number gets broken down a bit better in the Sexy app, where it shows the regen plus the DC, which is the supercharging, all in one. And then we see the total kilowatt hour discharge at the bottom of the Sexy app, That's just the total that has gone towards the car, whether it's for heating or for into the battery. Lines up exactly with the Tesla app within a couple kilowatt hours. So we can confirm that the car has sucked back right around 2,530 kilowatt hours. And that is since 0 kilometers. Right now I'm at 10,638, so I'm going to have to reduce this by around 6.5%. I will do the proper math here to do the math to make it exactly at 10,000 kilometers when I compare to gas here. After adjusting down to 10,000 kilometers and 6,238 miles, this is a total use of 2,368 kilowatt hours. At a total cost, including all fees of 15.5 cents per kilowatt hour, I would be charged 367 Canadian dollars, which equals 258 US dollars. Now, when you calculate the cost from the car I came from, which was a 2010 Honda Civic, 10,000 kilometers in gas would use 8 liters per 100 kilometers. That equals 800 liters used. At the average gas price here in Saskatchewan being $1.50 Canadian per liter, that equals out to $1,200 in Canadian or 843 USD. So at these rates, and keep in mind that was peak winter, the coldest and least efficient months for EVs by a long shot, I will be saving 833 Canadian dollars for every 10,000 kilometers traveled. Or if I want to change that to monthly, that is $278 Canadian that I'll save every single month. And again, that's going to just get better in summer as the EV gets more efficient, but the gas car still gets a little more efficient, but not near as much as the EV will. Another really cool feature of this car is the features of this car. Like, it just does everything. If you don't like screens, might not like the car, folks, I'm going to be honest. But also, that being said, pretty much everything on the screen is just a thumbs touch away with voice commands. You can pretty much voice command anything, and I'll throw up on screen here a master list of voice commands you can do. This might actually be really helpful for a lot of you Tesla owners because there is more voice commands than you might even realize. So here's an example or two of the voice commands. My feet are cold. And now it's blowing warm air down there. Another one could be, if you're hungry and you don't know where there's food, I am hungry. It is looking up local restaurants that I could go to. So it's showing me how far away a bunch of options are. And yeah, these are all real options here in Warman where I am right now. And let's pretend you just saw an incident or you witnessed an accident or just something crazy happened. Save dash cam. And it just saved the last 10 minutes, and it's going to put a flag in a separate folder for when you pull the USB drive. I'm sure most of you guys have heard about the company called Enhance. They make the S3 XY gadgets. That's the model names of Teslas, the sexy gadgets, including stuff like the basic commander, which just plugs into your OBD2 port and does all kinds of modifications. And there's also accessories on top of that, such as the buttons that you can program to do anything. Now there's the stocks on the Model 3 Highland refresh, and as well as the knob. And so if you've been on the fence about getting some sexy gadgets, now is the time to go. They are launching a 20% off sale starting today when this video goes live. And so you'll get 20% off everything except for the stocks. And to stack with that, my coupon code FrozenTesla will get you an extra 10% off. So that's going to be 30% off that you guys can get in their spring sale here. So now is really the time if you've been thinking about getting some gadgets from them. This is the time, and it's going along with an update with some features that I am really psyched about that just make my car better. And I'm going to show you those too, since I'm showing you things I like about the car at this point, and I'm going to show you these quick features. One of my low-key favorites of this update is actually going to be that windshield one with the wiper. So one thing I don't really care for is having to hold this for a random amount of time to get the wiper fluid to spray. And so I have to hold it for like a couple seconds, and then it sprays, and then it uses a whole bunch of fluid. So, you know, that's not something I really love having to do. But with this, all I'm going to have to do is I can program it to any button. So I could do one press on that, but I programmed it to this. And so all I'm going to have to do is press this once. I'll try to get this all in one shot. So I just quick press and it just does the whole thing in one super quick press. So not only do I not have to put my hand up here to press that, I can just have my hand resting here as I often do in FSD or just while driving and give that a single press and it'll use the perfect amount of fluid. I don't have to hold anything and do any guessing. So that is an awesome feature. Another one they just released is easy entry for passengers. So this is really cool. So again, using my stocks, I can open my passenger door with that. And so what happens is if a passenger gets in, we close the door, they are still an easy entry. But as soon as I put on the seat belt, the seat automatically is moving back to their desired position. So this is really cool. And you can see if I undo the seat belt, the seat is now moving back and it's going back to the easy entry or easy exit position. So that is another automation that is releasing along with this update with the 20% off plus my coupon code 30% off sale. This feature is included with the basic commander, so all you have to do, instead of having to go like this and swipe it up to drive like that, which again is no problem, tap into park, you can just scroll up once on the scroll wheel and I am in drive. This is a super cool update, guys. And next thing I can do is I can scroll down once and I'm in reverse. So if you don't like reaching over and swiping like this, you can just do this. I find that to be a really cool update since I don't know if you've noticed, but that scroll wheel doesn't do anything unless you're in autopilot or in full self-drive. And so, of course, they've programmed it to only work when you're not in full self-drive or autopilot. It's only going to work and be usable when you're going a very slow speed, when it's appropriate to go into drive in reverse. It's not going to let you accidentally go in reverse at 100 kilometers an hour. Trust me, I tested it. And so with this new update, this is what my new home screen looks like. And so my washer fluid button is going to be that one, and my auto wiper button is going to be that one. So currently it's set to auto, and if it starts raining, I can rotate it to 1 if I want to, and my wipers will be on 1. If I deem that not quick enough, I can spin it to 2. They will be on 2. If I want more, I can do 3, and it'll be 3. But that all being said, I am not sponsored by Enhance Auto. I do make a small commission from sales of their products, but it's products that I genuinely believe in, and they are relevant to this video because they are things that I've noticed about the 10,000 kilometers in my car. They are things that I like about the car. They make my car better, and they're very affordable in the grand scheme of what you pay for a car to get all these extra unlocks. There's not a better time than this to get 30% off your order using code FrozenTesla. When I test drove this car, I did not expect to want to be a buyer, as the cost of the car was about $15,000 or $20,000 more than the Hyundai Kona I was looking at, non-EV. I would never buy a Kona EV, I don't think. It's just not near as techy as this, and if I'm getting an EV, I wanted something really nice. But we were looking at the Kona mid-range crossover SUV. I really did myself, as a cross shopper, a disservice by driving the Kona immediately after driving the Model 3. My goodness, a CVT transmission after you hop out of an EV, and also the one-pedal driving. You can't go back after that, folks. At least I couldn't. And that Kona felt like, man, I don't even know if I can say this. Let's just say the Kona did not feel as premium or even in the same world as the Tesla did when you drive them back to back. If you don't believe me, do it yourself. The Kona is still a fine car. It just does not even seem in the realm of comparability to the Model 3. So that was a rough one to test and compare against. And of course, I'm going to go over the problems I've had with the car too. So in the Model 3, I've had 3 problems here so far. All of them, I would say, very minor, but you can be the judge of that. And I'll dive right into what the problems were. One of my main issues has been this cup holder. Now this is a very small one, but sometimes, and here it's happening, awesome timing. So when you pop it back, it is supposed to pop out and auto close. But mine sometimes doesn't, sometimes it does. So yeah, I'm having to boost it there and push it, but it's supposed to just do that. So there it worked. So it's very hit or miss. And for the filming of this video, it happened to stall on me. And sometimes it'll do it like 20 times in a row. Sometimes it will work perfectly fine, but this time I seem to wake it up. So that has been one of my main issues with the car. Pretty minor one. And I was not able to replicate that when I brought my car in for warranty service. It worked perfectly fine when I brought it in. He said if it happens again or it keeps happening, they can look at it. But I mean, I don't blame them for not really working on it because it worked flawlessly when I brought it in. But there were 2 other reasons I brought it in, and I'm going to show you those now. So I made a bit of a blunder when I brought this car in, and I forgot to take a picture or video of my door, but this was gapped, and I'll try to replicate exactly what it looked like. It was super minor, super minimal, but I would say it was right around that. So if you can even tell, the door just looks ever so slightly, no, it wasn't even this bad. The door looks ever so slightly open, just by a tiny amount, but enough that it bothered me, and for a new car, I just wanted to get that resolved. And so when I brought it in for service, I mean, they brought it in, and now I've got a flawless door. I don't even know how they do that, but he just adjusted the strike, and now it is perfect. And that was done for free under warranty. The third and final problem I had with the car was in the passenger seat. So that's where I'm sitting now, and it makes a popping noise when there's bumps. So if you listen, sorry for the shaking, but if you can hear that, I hope you can. It pops, and there's a little metallic something in there that's popping and snapping when going over bumps or when someone a little heavier like myself goes on it. So of course, when my wife, who is much lighter than me, like 80 pounds lighter than me, sits in the car, barely it ever triggers that noise. And so I thought it was clunking in the suspension or snow stuck in my suspension and clunking once in a while. But then eventually I just got in the passenger seat, since I never do that. And I started bouncing like that, and I was relieved because it's just a little plate in the seat flexing of some sort. That was another thing I brought into the dealer, and in case you noticed, this is being filmed now on March 28th, and it's still happening. So I have the dealer records, and I'll probably be able to put them up on screen here. But from what I remember without looking at them, the seat got a lot of work done to it, and apparently taken out and rebuilt and taken apart, and not at all better than before. So I'm probably gonna have to bring that one back in. I don't know what this is gonna come to, if it's repairable or if they're just gonna say screw it and give me a new seat. But yeah, of course I want to get that fixed because, you know, when I take a buddy out, and I have buddies that are bigger than me, and every littler bump even, it happens a lot more frequently. So it doesn't sound too premium to be in a brand new $60,000 car and every little bump makes a little kind of popping, clunky noise that sounds like it might be suspension when really it's just your seat. And so that is the 3 problems I've had with my car for the 10,000 kilometers I've had it. Obviously, all of these extremely minor. I've got one more nitpick about the car, and it's kind of a major one actually. It's more of a nitpick. There's nothing that can be done to fix this, and today is a perfect situation for it because it is when snow melts and freezes, and you will see the situation here. I'll show ya. Guys, I can't believe it. I just barely did this whole thing without filming. But there's a bunch of snow frozen onto the back of the trunk. I opened the trunk and it all dumps like this. I haven't touched anything yet. But this is what happens when you unlatch the trunk. And of course, naturally, it's going to slide in like this. So this is what happens when you get a lot of snow, and especially when it melt freezes like this. Like, look at this, just a big chunk of ice. Now I'm fishing with bare hands, unless you have gloves. So I'm fishing snow and ice chunks out of my trunk. That is for sure my biggest gripe with the design of this car. And yeah, something that prevents me from wanting to even bother opening the trunk when it's snowing, because that is inconvenient. And this snow, at least before, was completely frozen on until I opened the trunk, and it disrupted the whole thing because, yeah, the trunk closes like this, and oh my goodness, I can't even close it now, guys. I gotta find a way to clear all the snow before I can close the trunk. Now, of course, this isn't something that's warrantyable or actually a flaw of the car, or at least the design of the car, but my goodness, what a inconvenience. Now let's see if I can even close it like this. What kind of crunching are we gonna hear? Ugh. Oh my goodness, that didn't sound good, folks. It's squeezing snow out here. Ugh. Yeah, but snow is frozen completely up here, right? So it just had to bust through all the snow. Thankfully, it's on a strong motor, and then it dumps all the snow into the trunk, and I am really sad I didn't get that on video. Now, technically, that is pretty minor. You don't need to use the trunk, but sometimes you do. If you have kids and strollers and whatever else, you gotta use the trunk, and then you're gonna have to deal with that. So T-Parts, I think I'm gonna be reaching out to you here shortly to get the trunk liners as well, because now I have a bunch of ice melting and soaking into the padding of my car. So my final thoughts here. For my first 3 months, or about 9,000 personal kilometers of ownership of this car, it has been absolutely awesome. Amongst the small little gripes, it's not like my Civic was perfect, right, guys? I still had a trunk that opened the same way, and snow fell in. But for the other little small issues I've had, absolutely not a regret causer. I've had no issues with the battery. My range has been fine. I always get home with lots of charge, and I have a full charge or as high as I feel like having in the morning. And it has just been simple, convenient, pretty luxurious. I feel like I got pretty good value overall. Because as we saw previously, if I build it out, it's going to be saving me money faster than I thought it would be compared to a gas vehicle. Not to mention, I don't have to worry about all kinds of stuff like a lot of my friends are. Whether it's one of my buddies' Honda CR-Vs, finding gasoline in the oil, getting numerous parts replaced, or vehicles with 135,000 kilometers and head gaskets going, which is someone else I know. There's just all kinds of issues that literally don't exist with electric vehicles. There's no exhaust system, there's no engine block system, there's no cylinder heads. There's so many less things to go wrong. Plus, with Tesla, you get the 8-year powertrain warranty, which covers the motor drive units and the batteries. So really, I don't have to worry about anything for at least 8 years. At that point, we'll see. I'm a strong believer that battery technology is going to have come so far in 8 years that getting a battery replacement really will not be that bad, especially when you consider how much I've saved over the 8 years I'll have it. I'm on pace to do 200,000 kilometers before I hit 8 years. And if anything happens in 8 years, it's free. And if I'm unlucky enough to have a motor drive unit or battery fail the first year after the 8-year warranty, then it is what it is. But if I have no issues in the first 8 years, I have no reason to believe I'm going to have an immediate issue right after the 8 years. And I'm not selling this car, at least from what I can tell, I'm not upgrading or changing it out at any point because I want to do extremely long-term testing. In 10 years, I should have 250,000 kilometers. It's about 150,000 miles. And I think I will still be loving this car, and I think it will still feel just as current as competing vehicles at that time. So I hope this video has been helpful for all you guys that are considering an EV or a Tesla. And especially if you live in a colder climate like I do, you can rest assured know that it can handle minus 40 Celsius or Fahrenheit. It's definitely going to handle summer. My efficiency is only going to get better. I have only owned this car for the 3 coldest months of the year here. And so things are only going to get simpler and better and more efficient than I'm already experiencing. And of course, if you're thinking about buying a Tesla for yourself, make sure you use my referral link in the description. Click on it and see what it'll get for you in your location, as it is different everywhere. Currently, it's around $1,000 US, 1,300 Canadian. We'll see what it is and what models are out at that time too. There's supposed to be some cheaper models coming out this year. But what I would recommend is if you have access to level 2 charging and you're on the fence to buy an EV or a Tesla, but you kind of want to do it and it makes sense to do it, just do it. At a minimum, go for a test drive and see how you like it. Tesla gave me an overnight demo, so I picked it up at 5 p.m. I had it all evening. I had it in my garage overnight, and I tested my 240 plug in the garage. I had a 32 amp plug in the garage, and they gave me a charger to test it, and it worked great. And then I dropped the car off in the morning, and they make their demo drives so seamless. It is nothing like going to a car dealership. I promise you that. When you go to a Tesla store, they just want you to drive and experience the car. They're not salespeople. You don't buy the car there. You buy it online. I bought mine on my phone, on my couch. And so just go drive one and try one out. Thank you for checking out another Frozen Tesla video. I really appreciate all you guys viewing, and I'll see you again on the next one. Hopefully a little more sun, a little less snow.